Native Americans were really adept at surviving and thriving in the natural environment that they lived in. Over thousands of years and generations, they learned how to not only to survive in their environment, but how to get all kinds of extra things from it. They learned by trial and error. They learned by teaching each other. They got food, shelter, clothing, tools, weapons, medicine, entertainment, just about anything that they needed to make their lives better, they either made or found in their natural environment. Right here in our backyard, we've got a whole bunch of different things that they could have used. For instance, this white pine right here. This is a small one. Some people call it a long needle pine. These trees can get very tall, and they would use the logs for dugout canoes or for building their homes. But they could also take the needles off of this tree, and they could put it in hot water and make a tea from it, and it was a good source of vitamin C. They were actually very surprised when the early settlers came here to North America and were getting sick from vitamin C deficiency and catching scurvy, because there were sources of vitamin C all around. Virtually every member of the pine family can provide vitamin C, but this one's a pretty easy one to get a hold of, and it's right in the backyard. Now, they also were able to trap animals using things that were available in nature. Trapping was a very important development because it allowed them to find food in one location and hunt for food in another. Additionally, trapping was something that elderly people could do, even children could do. In a situation like this, they'd take a small tree like this one, they'd find a game trail like the one running right through here. They would bend the tree down, attach a snare to it, and when the animal came down the trail and got caught in the snare, the tree would spring up. They got food and they got pelts that way, and they used the pelts to keep themselves warm, and they used the pelts for clothing. Right here, we've got a great big red pine. Now this big fella can be used to make logs for homes. It can make a great dugout canoe so they can paddle down the river. It's got needles, they're way, way up there, but those needles have got vitamin C like we talked about earlier. Well, look at this bark. These great big pieces of bark that are on that tree, they can be used to start fires. They could be used for protective clothing. They can be put on the bottom of a pair of moccasins to protect your feet a little bit better. They can even be used to put food on, to eat off of while you're making a quick camp. The inner bark of that tree is really fibrous and it's flexible. They would take that inner bark and peel it down, and they would grind it up into a powder. They would rub that powder all over their bodies for scent control. That was really useful when it came to hunting. Another use that Indians found for the plants around them that grew in the forest was medicine. Now, this particular plant is an ornamental shrub. It's called Ilex vomitoria. You might notice the word vomit is in the word. That's because if you take the leaves from this tree or this bush and you put them in warm water and you drink it, it'll make you throw up. It's mildly toxic. But the Indians used this, and other members of the holly family, because they all have that trait. They used it as a form of medicine. Let's say, for example, one of their children ate a mouthful of bad mushrooms. Kids are always putting things in their mouths. They could brew up a quick tea of this, have the child drink it, and he would throw up the mushrooms, which were far more toxic than the tea would be. And it would at least give them a chance to survive a toxic event. So they used this as a medicinal plant, along with a lot of other plants that they found growing out in the forest. Now, they didn't just use plants for medicine, transportation, and shelter. They also used it to make tools, or in this case, a weapon. This is an old war club that I made probably when I was about 11 or 12 years old. And all it is a piece of a branch, a rock, and I've decorated it up a little bit and used a piece of leather to hold it together. but it would be like an Indian war club that they could use to fight against an opponent. Now, besides that, our Eastern Woodlands Indians also love to play games. They had spare time, so they learned how to make things to play games. And one of the sports that was invented by the Eastern Indians was lacrosse. Now, this is not exactly like the lacrosse stick they use, but it's not much different. This one's probably 75 to 85 years old, and they probably weren't making it much different 100 years before that. But you can see this is all sinew and leather here. That's animal parts, and then the rest is just wood. And they would use this to play a sport. It's a sport that you see being played today. Maybe some of you have brothers or sisters who play. But Indians were far more advanced and really adept at learning how to use their environment. So when you're looking around, just kind of look at things and look at them the way an Indian would. Think about how you could use that.